Hong Kong's hidden army of stuntmen uncovered in an hour with red trousers. First on Bio, our evening of kung fu fighting begins with the greatest martial artist of all time. Beautiful precision violence sees hundreds of baddies killed with a single punch from the diminutive fists of the mighty Bruce Lee.
When Bruce Lee died at the age of just 32, he was virtually unknown outside Hong Kong. But the films he left behind have made Kung Fu famous. His physical prowess and extraordinary screen charisma overwhelmed the West and made him the world's first Asian superstar.
If you go to any small town in America today, you will see a church, you'll see a beauty parlor, and a karate school. Before Bruce, there was just a church and a beauty parlor.
Americans had stereotypes about what Asians were like, and he took those stereotypes and just turned them upside down on their head.
He's got such an intense desire to be good. He is not a natural athlete in a sense. His small frame, lightweight, but he becomes a superhuman being sheerly by sheer training.
A lot of people ask him, "Are you the best?" And he will always say, "If I tell you I'm the best, you probably think I'm boasting. But if I tell you I'm not, you know I'm lying."
Bruce Lee arrived in America in 1959. He'd been in trouble for gang fighting in Hong Kong, and his parents were worried about his future. They sent him to Seattle to live and work in a friend's Chinese restaurant. Bruce was 18 years old, self-confident and ambitious. He'd spent 5 years training as a martial artist in Hong Kong, and he was already fascinated by Kung Fu's philosophical teachings. In Seattle, he enrolled at the university to study philosophy. He was soon lecturing younger students.
Bruce used to come to my high school in Seattle, Washington, Garfield High School, and he used to lecture about Chinese philosophy in the philosophy class. And although I was not in that class, it seemed that the whole school knew when Bruce Lee came to Garfield High. And so we would often stand at the end of the hall and go, "Ooh, that Bruce Lee guy is here,
Bruce set up a martial arts school in a basement in Seattle's Chinatown. In Hong Kong, Kung Fu was only taught to Chinese, but Bruce welcomed all races and backgrounds.
His speed was fast enough that you literally couldn't see the hands move, and he had a lot of little tricks he developed, gimmicks to demonstrate that. He would ask you to put a coin in the palm of your hand, and he would be standing 5 feet away, and he would say, "Now I'm going to take that coin from your hand, but as soon as you see me move, close your hand."
And the person would close their hand real fast.
He would say, "Now you have that coin?" He'd say, "Yep."
So you think, right, I've beat him,
You'd open it.
And it's a penny.
He had the coin.
This supermarket in Seattle is owned by one of Bruce's closest friends, Taki Kimura. He still holds classes in the gym downstairs where he was taught by Bruce. Taki was twice Bruce's age when he became his student. He had suffered years of racial prejudice. A Japanese American, he had been held in an internment camp during the Second World War. He lived in fear of discrimination. Bruce urged him to take pride in his Asian identity.
he began to talk to me and say, "My God, Khmer, get your hair cut differently. Look at those clothes you're wearing. I mean, they're just, you're just an old man at 36 or 37, whatever I was at that time." But I couldn't help it, but he kept, pumping me up with, things like, you're just as good as me, not any better. You're just as good as anybody else, not any better, not any worse.
In the 1960s, Americans still looked down on the Chinese. They were expected to be subservient, but Bruce had a very different vision of himself and his people.
He had a sense about himself and his worth that he wasn't looking for people who were going to discriminate against him or look down upon him for being Chinese. In fact, I think he would have thought that idea absurd.
In 1963, Linda Emery became a student in Bruce's Kung Fu class. She was 18, he was 23.
And really, I didn't think that Bruce would ever be particularly interested in me. To me, he was the teacher and the showman and the magnet, so to speak. But one day, we happened to be practicing there in that grassy area on the University of Washington campus, and he was showing me a certain throw. And so he threw me down to the ground, and then he said to me, "How would you like to go to the Space Needle?" And I said, "You mean all of us go to the Space Needle? Isn't that rather exotic?" And he said, "No, just you." And I was like, whew, be still my heart, So I guess that was our first date.
Bruce's reputation as a martial artist was beginning to spread. In 1964, he was invited to California to demonstrate his skills at a major karate tournament.
I actually saw Bruce Lee's demonstration in 1964 at the Long Beach tournament held by Mr. Ed Parker. And I was really impressed with his speed, ability, and the way his personality. I was just fortunate to be there and to see his demonstration. And a lot of people mentioned about the 1964, and I said, I was there. I saw that.
The assembled karate masters were astounded by his power and speed. Most of them had never seen Chinese kung fu before and were captivated by Bruce's display, and most of all by a new move he had developed, the 1-inch punch. Taki was Bruce's assistant.
He was able to generate that force that seemed to just come from the tip of his toes right out to the end of his extended hand. He could just hit you just like a high-speed bullet.
I always remember that moment when he did that 1-inch punch. I think a lot of people remember that punch. I mean, everybody is shocked, including all the karate or all the professional people over there. I mean, the power that this guy had. I mean, 1 inch, and the guy, boom, just flew to the chair. So it was very, very impressive. And that moment, and that punch, then I know he's the man. And he will be the man. And will always be the man.
Linda hadn't told her family about her Chinese boyfriend. She had been seeing Bruce for almost a year when they decided to get married.
The plan was that we were going to elope and tell them later. We thought we knew everything, And what we didn't know was that in the state of Washington, when you apply for a marriage license, there's a 3-day waiting period, and then they publish it in the vital statistics of the newspaper. We had no idea. And, those very tiny little printed lines in the paper, whoever reads them anyway, except my maiden auntie, who happened to read it. And it said, Linda C. Emery to marry a Bruce Lee. And, so anyway, we were discovered. A big family powwow was held, and they wanted to dissuade us because, it's quite a load to dump on my mother's plate that all of a sudden her 19-year-old daughter is going to run away and marry a Chinese man.
Her mother relented and Bruce and Linda were married with a ring that they had borrowed for the afternoon. Within 9 months, their son Brandon was born.